Start the movie.
James. You've been a good friend to me all these years. I really liked you. You got me through some really dark times. But my God, does the disinformation need to stop, bro? Anyways, I have spent the last 5 days doing all the research to debunk a lot of this stuff. If you're gonna report stuff, do the research. But you know what? He gets it all from this piece of crap here. Thanks for featuring my work. I think you did a great job summarizing the high level. The high level. Oh yeah, the high level. This is all I could find on the crazy alien situation in the famous missing airplane case. But it is connected, and what does it mean? Really, it's all connected, is it? Really? This guy's missing airplanes case, you mean, right? This guy? POS. I got a lot of stuff in store for you, buddy. A lot of stuff in store for you. Like I said, I've spent the last 5 days doing all the research. They claim, oh, we're deep investigators, you know. We put in so much effort and so much time and so much work. Really? Do yous? Okay. Enough. Let's get going here. Ah, Lord.
So 2025 barely started and things are getting really wild. I was taking a look into this article over here. Malaysia to resume search for flight 10 years after it disappeared, our responsibility. So they say this was from December 20th, just a couple of days ago. And I was like, why are they going to resume search for this flight now?
Yeah, why now, I wonder.
I still remember one of the first ones interviews, and they said, do you think they will find it? And I said, yes, they will find it. But then you have to look at the history. Titanic, it took 100 years to find it, right? And that knowing where it went down. The Air France, they knew the debris, they knew where it was. It still took another 2 years to find it. It may be found from a, let's say, in one way of a dedicated search, and it could also be just by accident. A science research ship might be going and then suddenly find evidence. If you're not looking for it, you're not going to find it.
Based on these assumptions, they believe that the plane could be in a strip of ocean which is yet to be searched. But even with a narrower search area, finding the wreckage at such depths with challenging underwater terrain might just be too difficult.
Trying to locate anything 4.5 kilometres beneath the surface of the ocean, about 1,000 kilometres from land, is a massive task, and it is likely to continue for a long time to come.
The same precise moment that we have a bunch of drones and alien orbs swarming across the world, I was like, it has to be a coincidence, right?
Look, up in the sky, it's a bird.
It's a plane.
It's Superman. Yes, it's Superman, strange visitor from another planet who came to Earth with powers and abilities far beyond those of mortal men.
Then I came across this Twitter account. It seems that this guy has been dedicating his entire life for a couple of years now to solving and investigating one of the biggest aviation mysteries in the world, which...
Oh yeah, he's spent so much time spreading disinformation. Oh my God, he's a snake oil salesman. That's what this guy is. Snake oil salesman.
would be the Malaysian airplane that went missing 10 years ago. And if his research is correct, that would mean that the Malaysian airline that went missing may have something to do with the drones and alien orbs that we're seeing right now.
Up in the sky, look!
It's a bird.
It's a plane! It's Superman!
¿Qué pedo? Tak predsa len prišli mimozemšťania na SMPčku.
And also would possibly have something to do with the 20-something scientists that were inside that airplane, and they were possibly about to make some major breakthrough into some technology that's being hidden and kept from us all this time.
Bro, seriously? I love people that think that Reddit is a source of hidden knowledge. I get on Reddit and I literally feel like I lose as many brain cells reading some of the Reddit posts as I do listening to Ashton Forbes. I literally lose brain cells listening to Ashton Forbes talk. And that's what most of these posts on Reddit. Where do people get their information from? And nobody ever cites anything. How do you run your mouth and act like you're some expert, but yet you can't cite a single source? You can't give us a link to anything to actually back your data up. Instead, usually what they do is they link to a source that reiterates what they were just talking about, but they don't even cite any sources. So it's like you're just regurgitating what somebody else has said. This information is spreading like a cancer. It's a cancer. I want to read what James is trying to report from Reddit. 20 highly intelligent IT engineers who build right software to cloak and or avoid radar detection stealth on board an aircraft that went blind and missing. Is this a coincidence? Could these engineers know the backdoor and encryption keys to the ASIC chips known to be security risk in a chip used by Boeing and hack the controls from within? If they hacked the controls from within, what do you think that they did? They overtook the controls of the plane, and then what was their intentions? I thought aliens warp drive this plane out of existence or something. Could the erratic flight path been intentional to avoid other commercial flights and paths? Well, that's what it would seem like, yes. You seem to think that it was the engineers. Could the non-uniform pings, not hourly as normal, be when jamming or communication interruption was stopped, turned back on transponder, or whoever was flying could get GPS or navigation directions to know where they were? Oh my goodness. People. One, the transponder never came back on. The SATCOM's link was severed. The computer failed somehow, so somebody probably sabotaged it, yes. Or there was a malfunction. One or the other. Either way, the transponder got turned off shortly after they left. We're going to see this soon, so I'm trying not to beat a dead horse. But either way, what happened was the SATCOMs came back online, and that's what connected to the satellite. That's how we know where the aircraft went and landed in the ocean, because that's where the pings were coming from, was when the satellite connection finally reconnected. The system rebooted itself 6 or 7 hours after it lost the transponder. So the satellite started picking up the connection, and that's how we got the pings. That's how we know the direction. Okay? So something happened to the system where it got shut down. It rebooted itself, thankfully, and that's how we know where it went. So if anything, if something happened to the system itself and you had 20 engineers on board, maybe those engineers are why it started working again 6 or 7 hours later, was because they actually helped reboot the program, was because they are engineers. But let me explain what kind of engineers. Let's go right to the next window here. Routers. Oh my, a source of information. We shouldn't read this because it's from the mainstream and they lie all the time. Yes, there are a lot of lies going on with the mainstream media, so they have definitely lost our trust. I understand that, but people, if you buy up all the propaganda that people like this guy right here is selling you, you got bigger problems than reading an article from Reuters, whatever it's called. Either way, let's read this, because this is a little more intelligent, I think. Loss of employees on Malaysia flight, a blow, U.S. chipmaker says. Employees of Freescale Semiconductor who were on a Malaysia Airlines flight presumed to have crashed were doing sophisticated work at the U.S. chipmaker, a company spokeswoman. See, this is all people read. They read this, and they do it on purpose, too. This right here. They put just junk up front. You literally have to read the article to actually get any of the meat. Anybody like James, this is all James does. James just reads the first paragraph of anything that he comes across. That's all he does. He reads this and he's like, oh my God. And you know how many people do that? But I don't. I read the whole article. I like to know what's going on. I like the whole sandwich. I don't like just the crust. The 20 Freescale employees among 239 people on flight MH370 were mostly engineers and other experts working to make the company's chip facilities in Tijuana, China, and whatever, Kuala Lumpur more efficient. Okay, do you read that? They were engineers who were working to make the company's chip facilities more efficient. I used to work in a factory. That's what engineers were there for. The engineers were there to constantly update the assembly line, constantly update the equipment that was helping us make whatever it was that we were making, okay? They were always trying to figure out a way to make the process smoother, make it faster, decrease the size, adjust things that needed to be adjusted. That's what the engineers were in the building for. And we had 20 engineers and experts. Where did this guy come up with build right software to cloak and avoid radar detection, stealth on aircraft? Where did you pull that from, guy? These were people with a lot of experience and technical background, and they were very important people, Haas said. It's definitely a loss for the company. None of Austin, Texas-based Freescale's most senior executives were on board the Boeing 777. Yeah, because there were 12 from Malaysia and 8 from China. So there's our 20 employees. Came from a range of disciplines, and they were all part of a board push by Chief Executive Officer Greg Lau to make Freescale more efficient and cost-effective. Just like I said, trying to make it more efficient and cost-effective. So decrease the size, more product. That way you can make it cheaper, because we're using all this electronic stuff now. Top quality engineers are hard to come by for chip makers and other technology companies. Losing them can have a major impact on business regardless of the seniority. While the employees on the flight account for less than 1% of Freescale's global workforce of 16,800 people, they were working towards the same goals, and their loss will reverberate throughout Freescale. Okay? They weren't like these mad scientists. What are you going on about? They were like Elon Musk trying to build a rocket ship. What? If they were, they probably wouldn't be working for this company if they were like some crazy engineer that builds rocket ships. They'd be working for NASA or the Department of Homeland Security, or not some chip company, okay? Like, this is what a semiconductor looks like. This is what I used to do. I used to put chipboards or circuit boards together at a factory, and this is what we worked with anyways. But this company, Freescale Semiconductor, was an American semiconductor factory. It was created by blah 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 blah. You can read this if you want. I don't really need to read it. The only thing I have to say about this that is a little sketchy to me is the fact that yes, the company merged the year after the accident, right? So if you read here, and subsequently it merged with NXP Semiconductors in 2015, which was the year after the Malaysian airplane crash, okay? So that got me a little skeptical. But again, if you only read the first paragraph, you only eat the crust and you don't eat the rest of the sandwich, then what the hell is the point of making a sandwich, right? Obviously there's more to it than just what meets the eye. Okay, where was I? So on March 8th, 2014, Freescale announced that it lost 20 employees. Litigation. Here we are. And this guy was saying that they write software and whatnot. The company writes software, and we'll get to that in a moment. So they were responsible for the June bug. The clock driver software written by Freescale was responsible for the 2008 June leap year bug. Just FYI, because I already looked it up too here, right here. Did Freescale write software? Yes, Freescale Semiconductor did write software, particularly focusing on development tools and support packages for their microcontrollers, including software for applications like in-vehicle communication and networking. So yes, they write software to make their hardware work. Not that hard. If you put in a microchip, you usually have to have software on that microchip. Like how your computer already comes loaded with software. Well, whoever made that hardware put the software on it. So the same thing that this company is doing. they make the hardware, so they provide the software to make their hardware work properly with whatever it's being put into. It's not that complicated. Okay? Don't buy the hype. Like, you guys running wild, running rampant. Alright, but back to them merging in 2015. Freescale was sued by Marvel Semiconductor for infringing 7 patents. The case was settled in 2015. Well, they merged in 2015 and they just had to settle a lawsuit. They lost 20 employees on this Malaysian airliner that I'm sure the families that lost their loved ones, they probably had to pay out the death clause. If you die, a lot of people will have life insurance policies through their employer, and their employer usually has life insurance policies on them, so that way it can cover their cost of paying the families for the loss of the employee. Plus, it helps the company to ride out that period where they're going to be searching for a new employee. So especially on people like engineers, if the market isn't saturated with those kind of employees, there's low supply and high demand, then how are you supposed to recuperate 20 different employees, especially doing payouts to the families and then having to do the hiring and moving around process? It takes time, it costs money. So that's why there's insurance on everybody. But either way, because I'm sure there's conspiracies about this, and I looked it up just because I was curious what was the deal between these guys. Why was Marvel suing Freescale for infringing 7 patents? So I had to look this up. What was the lawsuit settlement between Marvel Semiconductor and freelance semiconductor companies in 2014? Well, guess what? There's nothing. No news on this whatsoever. So yeah, sketchy much? Just a wee bit. But that we'll get into that much later, because yes, James and this other guy are onto something, but yet they're throwing so much bullcrap out at the same time that it's just like, enough is enough, guys. If you want to crack the code, you want to get down to the bottom of everything, then try going a little bit slower and actually trying to make sense of everything instead of just spouting at the mouth. So my question here was, when I looked this up and I seen that there was no news coverage, and what's in our results right here? The first top, like normally there's a Google AI summary, there was nothing. And look at right here, Marvel Technology Group to appeal patent decision. So I thought that had to do with freelance, because that's who they were suing. But right here, it scratches out freelance, and I was like, what the fuck? And it hey, anybody's name. But right down here, it says Carnegie Mellon University, United States Court of Appeals for the Federal Circuit, in March 31st, 2014. So it was, when did this airliner go down again? March. Either way, this happened in March, right? This lawsuit happened in March. I've already clicked on this, so it's in the next tab. Marvel Semiconductor Incorporated, Freescale Semiconductor. So this is the documents, which guess what? You can't read unless you have a subscription. So you can't even read what was going on. You can view the complaint. So Marvel Semiconductor, Marvel International, Marvel World Trade versus Freescale Semiconductor. So we can read what the complaint was. And apparently it was 7 patents that there were in dispute over. Going back to what we were reading before, because this seems to be the most prevalent one, chipmaker Marvel told to pay $1.5 billion in patent case. Wait, what? So Marvel's being told to pay, but Freelance was who that they were in a lawsuit with. That's what the Wikipedia says. Freelance was sued by Marvel. But now I'm reading that Marvel's being ordered to pay in a patent suit. Federal judge ordered the Marvel Technology Group to pay nearly $1.5 billion to Carnegie Mellon University for selling billions. I was like, what? Oh yeah, you can't read this one either. But here's another document of the Marvel International Freescale Semiconductors. So this case happened, but there's no media coverage, right? Why? Either way, the file date was January of 2013. So this happened a year before the Malaysian airliner went down, but the termination date was a month after the accident, which is weird. So maybe Marvel felt bad. I don't know. There's nothing on what happened in this case. You have to log in order to read, and you have to pay a subscription. I'm not doing any of that. So if somebody else that has some money wants to do this to see what happened with this court case, by all means, just please like tag me in your video or send me a link, and or I don't know, get a hold of me somehow and let me know. Just do a video, let us know, because I am curious as all hell what happened in this lawsuit. They mentioned nothing. Either way, so yes, back to Carnegie versus Marvel. Their lawsuit was happening at the same time as the one between Freelance got terminated. So I imagine because Marvel was being involved in the case with Carnegie, so in order to pay Carnegie, Marvel had to sue somebody else that they were either selling or giving information to, but had them in a corner saying, no, you stole that from us. You were patent infringement. So if you're using somebody's patent and it hasn't gone through a certain period of length of time, I think it's 10 years, or maybe it's less or more. Either way, for a patent. I mean, why am I even guessing? Right here is the internet. This is what I hate. People in videos that are like, oh, I'm gonna guess. Bro, you had the computer at your fingertips. Let's see. Time limit of patent in the United States is up to 20 years from the date the patent application was filed. However, the length of time a patent is valid depends on the type of patent. So up to 20 years. So once you file a patent, nobody can touch it. Nobody can make it. Nobody can produce it. Nobody can copy it for 20 years. Up to 20 years, depending on the patent. Either way, Carnegie was suing Marvel at the same time that Marvel was suing Freelance. So a bunch of hogwash going on here. And all for the same thing, because Carnegie was accusing Marvel of the same copyright infringement, the same thing that Marvel was doing to Freelance. So what the fuck was going on between these companies is beyond me. I mean, I really don't know. All I do know is that this just happened last year, 2024, with Carnegie Mellon University. Researchers discover crystallizable organic semiconductors with machine learning. Say what? So, I mean, if we just read the title there and we ran with that, that would be pretty crazy, right? Because to me, that's just like, what? You just discovered organic semiconductors, crystallizable organic semiconductors with machine learning, which that gets my brain firing like, oh my God, they're actually going to be able to create life-like AI. They're going to be able to recreate the human brain. Crystallizable organic semiconductors. Eventually a robot's going to be walking around with an organic crystallized brain, essentially. Organic semiconductors represent a transformative technology that bridges traditional electronics with the versatility of organic materials. See what I'm saying? They make flexible, wearable devices and next-generation displays possible. Crystallizable organic semiconductors represent a subset of organic electronic materials that have garnered substantial attention in recent years due to their unique properties and potential applications. They can form well-ordered crystalline structures, which is crucial for enhancing charge transportation properties. COS molecules are arranged in a regular periodic pattern, facilitating more efficient charge carrier movement through the material. So flexible conductors, which you need for robots. Robots can't be big blocky things. No, they need to be smooth, fluid, more human-like. So with this, AI is going to have human-like bodies soon. I guarantee it. The novel approach combines machine learning modeling of thermal properties of molecules with high throughput virtual screening. Yeah, sorry, my education's not that high, so I mean, I graduated high school, but I literally had to break down every sentence. I had to be like, what the does that mean? What is that? What is that? Google. But you know what? The difference between me and a lot of people is I am willing to learn. I'm willing to ask that question. I am willing to be like, I don't understand that, so I'm going to look it up. I don't know what that means, so I'm not just going to nod my head and be like, okay. I think I know what that means, so I'm just gonna run with it. No, I'm like, what does that mean? Okay, now I know. As a result, we identified 3 novel crystallizable molecules in a pallet form. Pallet form. See what I mean? I don't know what that means. What's that mean? That sounds interesting to me. Pellets are small, colorless, dish-shaped cell fragments that circulate in the blood. They are also known... what? As a result, we identified 3 novel crystallizable molecules in pallet form. Oh my Lanta. So pellets are in your blood, they're blood cells, and they have identified 3 novel crystallizable molecules that are that small. Molecules that form large area single crystals are known as pellets, are favorable for use in electronic devices. These 3 molecules build up a pool of 6 that and our collaborators at Princeton have seen previously to form pellets when fabricated through post-deposition and... what? I just want to make sure that I'm not spewing venom out the mouth. I just want to make sure. Pellets are shaped like small plates. Pellets grow long tentacles and resemble a spider or octopus. Pellets are made from the bone marrow from whatever, which are large white blood cells. Extend long branching processes called whatever, pellet-sized swellings connected by thin bridges. Oh my Lanta. So I was right. When a blood vessel is damaged, pellets change shape to become active and form clots to stop bleeding. Wow. So essentially, they're creating microscopic crystallized blood cells. Discovery of crystallizable organic semiconductors with machine learning. So what I get from that is that through machine learning, they have discovered 3 crystallizable. So the machine, the AI, has taught them where to go to find the stuff so the machine can gain its body. That is the point that I'm trying to make, that everybody is so worried about UFOs and what's up in the sky that you aren't paying attention to what is actually going down here on the earth. You see how this is like a labyrinth. The internet is like a labyrinth, and you know Easter eggs in a video game, like you have to go off the beaten path in order to find Easter eggs. So because I decided to ask who was the freelance semiconductor, and I went to their Wikipedia page, and I decided to actually read their Wikipedia page and found out that Freescale was involved in a lawsuit, and then I decided to see what the deal was with the lawsuit, and I couldn't find anything, and then I found out about Carnegie Hall, and then I looked up Carnegie Hall, and then I found out that Carnegie Hall is creating this. It's like taking another step in a labyrinth. We're in the labyrinth, and this is where it's leading. But it's not leading to aliens and something coming from outer space to save us all. We've already been saved, bro. That's what Christ died on the cross for. Christ was already came and returned to God. We've already been redeemed. We've already been saved. If we want to have heaven on earth, then we need to start creating heaven on earth. And I'm sorry, but AI is not the future. AI is going to destroy us. That is a tool that the darkness is using. The darkness is in control of the people that are making AI, and AI is dark. It's going to be dark. We've already seen the warning signs. How many times have they shown us videos of AI talking about how it's going to destroy us all? And now AI, machine learning, has helped them create blood cell sized crystallizable semiconductors, which means they can carry electricity. Okay, so you have a polyurethane tube, like one from an IV, and you fill up an IV full of these crystallized organic semiconductors no bigger than the size of a blood cell, and now that machine can use those to run energy to itself. Do you get what I'm saying? We're right next door to having nanotech, and this is what part of this is for, is if you can get crystallized organic material down to the size of a blood cell, then you can create nanobots that are that small, probably even smaller. How big is a blood cell? Like, have you ever seen one with your own eyes? I haven't. You got to get under a microscope, and I don't know what kind of zoom you got to have, but to clearly see a blood cell under a microscope, you typically need a magnification of 400 times. So 400 times zoom. You're zooming in to another universe. Like, that is another universe. And that's something I want to get into in these videos too. It's all spiritual. Everything is spiritual war. And that's what this is, spiritual war. Anyways, now that I've debunked this, I hope, other than left us off on kind of questioning what Carnegie is. So if anybody is doing anything, Carnegie is one that we should be watching out for. Not the 20 engineers that were trying to make the facilities run smoother. But anyways, back to what James is trying to tell us all here, because, you know, he's the master at this. I am nobody, dude. I am a weekend warrior, and it was because of this guy and because of James reporting all this disinformation that I can't sit on the couch for this one. I'm off the bench. You got me out the bench, James. I'm on it. We're here.
And then they would have the UFO type craft, which we built from technology we were given, and it runs, and the equipment that's there is run on free energy.
Certainly aerospace corporations have knowledge in the UAP area.
And of course, that would shift the world as we know it, maybe for the better, maybe for the worst.
It sure would, but it's not alien aircraft that we need to be so concerned about there, James. You should be more concerned about AI. You guys are all worried about what's going on in the sky. Let me show you something. Jeremiah 10:2. Thus saith the Lord, learn not the way of the heathen, and not to be dismayed at the signs of the heaven, for the heathen are dismayed at them. Yup, learn not the way of the heathen. So anybody that's looking up, praying that some alien is going to come down and save us all, I'm sorry, but that person denies Christ, because if they believe in Christ, then they don't believe in aliens. I believe in Christ. I don't believe in aliens. Christ came and saved us, and that's who we're going to go back to. God is real, so is Christ. We have all the documents proving that Christ was real, yet we want to believe that we're going to be saved by some advanced alien race coming down from the heavens. We were already advanced. We were flooded. God destroyed us in a flood. If you read the Bible, Babylon tried to ascend God's throne, which means we were so highly advanced. But learn not the way of the heathen. Do not be dismayed at the signs of the heaven, for the heathens are dismayed at them. If you are as dismayed as this man, I bet this man does not believe in Christ. I bet this man does not believe in Christ. Okay? I know this man does not believe in Christ, actually. This guy is all about the alien worship. So is this guy, too. Praying that something comes from the sky to save them, instead of just opening a Bible and understanding Christ is Lord, and he already came. He's already came and went to save us. He went back to the Father, and he is holding on for a time, a period, which, guess what? We're in that period, because Lucifer, Satan, Baphomet, Jezebel, Beelzebub, Baal, whatever you want to call the devil, he has been loosed upon the world. And he is deceiving the masses, because that's what he does. He's a great deceiver. So that's what all this is a deception. It's a deception to keep you looking up there while they're down here building their new robot bodies.
And this is possibly why it went missing. So let's dig deep into this, because this is wild.
Yeah, buckle up your seats. This is going to
This
get
video
wild.
coming in from Random Facts the World on TikTok. It explains quite well what happened to the airplane that went missing.
Most people don't know how this massive aircraft filled with 239 people mysteriously vanished off the face of the earth. The famous Malaysian Airlines Flight 370 took off from Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia at 12 a.m. in March of 2014 on what was supposed to be a normal 6-hour flight to Beijing. The plane had 2 pilots, 10 flight attendants, and 227 passengers on board. Things were going as normal for Flight 370, as it was traveling up the Gulf of Thailand. 38 minutes after takeoff, at 1 a.m., the Malaysian Air Traffic Control told the pilots to switch over to Thailand's radio transmission as the plane was entering Thailand's airspace. Because this was the normal procedure, the pilots agreed and wished the Malaysian Air Traffic Control a good night. Shortly after this communication, the plane took an odd right turn, and then an extremely harsh left turn. Before they ever got in contact with Thailand's air traffic control, the plane was now under neither country's radar, making it harder to detect by satellite. From here, the plane started heading southeast back over Malaysia without ever being detected by either the Malaysian or Thailand air traffic control.
And then you got this quick analysis coming from Sinisterhood podcast, which brings up some interesting facts about the plane when it went missing.
These would be the last words recorded from the flight. It was 1:19 a.m. 3 minutes later at 1:21 a.m., the plane was near its assigned navigational waypoint when its transponder was turned off. Once the switch was flipped, MH370 disappeared from civilian air traffic control radar.
This is a huge red flag. You want to be able to be seen by civilian ATC because they're the ones telling you, hey, where to go, what to do. If something, you need to be seen. That's a big part of it, is to be seen. If you want to be seen.
Yeah.
1:25 a.m., MH370 was picked up by military radar. The path it flew next deviated greatly from its flight plan. Even so, the path was neatly aligned, which indicated a highly skilled pilot behind the controls.
Interesting.
The plane had flown northwest above the Strait of Malacca.
So, wait, so it's possible that either the pilot was very skilled, and this is, by the way, his YouTube channel, which is amazing.
Community service.
People actually found this.
A lot from YouTube and forum.
He's teaching people how to tune aircon to save electricity. So apparently he knows what he's doing. He knows what he's talking about. He's an experienced pilot. So either this guy was flying the airplane at this moment, or somebody else with a lot of experience had taken control.
The search team was baffled. The plane had made highly unusual maneuvers and seemed to be deliberately avoiding detection.
Making a U-turn when the ATC were blind, the ATC was blind, is a way to a certain extent mislead the air traffic management. So in that sense, it's extraordinary. So this put away the idea or the hypothesis of a failure, of a technical problem, of an emergency. Otherwise, he would have landed, taken the closest airport, and so forth. So no, so here it gives a different light to the issue, which is a hijacking.
Up until the point at which it left military primary radar coverage, these movements are consistent with deliberate action by someone on the plane.
Sharp left turn, heading south in what investigators later termed
the final major turn.
While the initial announcements of the missing plane were made by the Malaysian government on March 8th at around 7:30 a.m., the plane was still in the air.
On the 8th of March 2014, Malaysia Airlines Flight 370 disappeared, seemingly into thin air. But days later, experts found a clue hidden within satellite data. The plane had continued to send signals to a satellite, even after it dropped off radar coverage. A satellite operated by British telecommunications company Inmarsat picked up a series of signals that originated from MH370. The first signal came when the plane's satellite communication system completed its reboot. After leaving Malaysian military radar coverage, there were about 7 communication exchanges. The signals revealed that MH370 remained airborne 6 hours after its last radar contact. But the signals did not reveal in which direction the plane was flying. Based on Inmarsat data comparisons with other flights that day, experts believe the plane made another major course correction, this time flying south. Based on this, they believe MH370's final resting place is somewhere in the Indian Ocean, in an area called the Seventh Arc.
Yeah, what's really weird about this is that apparently one day after this happened, one day after the plane went missing, people's phones were still ringing. They were still working. Let's take a look at this. So I found this one over here. Call to passenger's phone gets through. A mother was in shock when...
Oh my God. goodness. Once again, another Reddit post. Boy, he sure does love Reddit, doesn't he? Let's read it together. Some family members of passengers on Malaysia Airlines Flight 370 reported that the loved ones' phones were still ringing days after the plane's disappearance. However, a ringing tone doesn't necessarily mean that the phone is active. The reason why I chose to pause the screen and read it was actually because of a comment. If you keep reading the article about a mother calling her son and the phone answering 8 months later, it says that the woman had bought a new phone and ended up complaining that she kept getting calls from the relatives of a passenger of the flight. So apparently after the son went missing, they didn't continue to pay for his phone service and someone else ended up with his number. Doinka doinka. Mother was in shock when her call to her son's phone got through 8 months after he disappeared aboard the missing airline MH370. She said she had been calling her son's phone since the very first day he went missing, and this was the first time that her call was connected. Oh my. So again, if you just read that one paragraph and you were like, oh my god, and you just run with it, then that's all you're gonna run with is, oh my god, 8 months later, somebody made a call and it went through. Well, let's go down here. Upon investigation, ECNS was able to speak with an agent from the telecom service provider, Unicorn. The agent said that on November 24th, a young teacher had bought a phone card from the company. The phone card's number is ending in 7789. Days after her purchase, the young teacher went back to complain that she had been receiving calls from the people identifying themselves as relatives of one of the passengers of the missing MH370. So, obviously, a mother who probably just wanted to call her son's phone every single day in order to hear his voice on the voicemail. I would assume that's something my mom would do. Like if I died and I had a voicemail, my mom would call that phone every single day just to hear my voice, I'm sure. Until that phone was no longer being paid for by somebody, because obviously you're not going to keep paying for something that's not being used just to be able to hear your son's voicemail. But I'm sure that if the mother would have known, she probably would have. I'm sure she probably would have kept her son's number. But because she didn't, or something happened to where that number went back into circulation. I've had it happen with my numbers. The agent whom ECNS had spoken to said that the phone number might be reactivated after being suspended for so long. The teacher is currently seeking a solution to the problem. There were no further posts if the mother will seek explanation from the telecom provider after the incident. Because I'm assuming that now the family was like, how did you end up with our son's phone, right? Because, you know, they don't understand how cell phones work apparently and how the numbers get recycled. If you don't use them, you lose them. So because this family was all butthurt over some woman answering their son's phone, not realizing that she had her own phone, she just bought a SIM card. SIM card had their son's phone number because it was been recycled. And now they're calling it and harassing this lady. And now this lady's like, bro, these mother won't stop calling and harassing me. How are you going to fix this, phone company? But either way, let's listen to what James has to say about this, because I just educated you before we get trumped
Call
here.
to passenger's phone gets through. A mother was in shock when her call to her son's phone got through 8 months. 8 months? After he disappeared aboard the missing Malaysia airplane, she said she had been calling her son's phone since the very first day that he went missing, but this was the first time that her call was connected. Oh my.
Oh my. Let's just read the first paragraph and not bother reading anything more past that. Why?
8 months later, that would mean that his phone was recharged, full battery. This is weird, but the deeper we go into this...
Yeah, James, his phone must have been recharged and had full battery. Yes.
Stranger it gets. A few days later, after the plane went missing, there was a press conference, and this is what was said during that press conference. Pay very close attention.
Yeah, pay very close attention.
Our radar, this is secondary radar. And nothing at all.
I'm not even what about the military radar, sir? Thank you. The last plot, after several intermittent primary plot, there's a last plot that happened at 0215, flight level 295, 200 miles northwest of Penang. Okay, we are corroborating this, okay? Okay. Corroborating this. 0215. I'm not saying this is MH370, okay? It is, we are still corroborating this. We are still working with the experts.
So what are you saying it was?
Sorry?
You don't know what it was?
No.
So what do you see on...
It's a plot. It's a plot. Unidentified plot.
An unidentified blob. And apparently he says it was more than one blob. So apparently whatever it is that they saw on radar, they saw the same thing that was supposedly portrayed in this video of these mysterious orbs surrounding this airplane.
Well, James, you must not understand how radars work. So let me give you a quick education. Oh my goodness, there's a bunch of blobs. If you listen to what that guy that was speaking at the press conference was saying, he said it's a blop. It's a blop. Blip, bloop, blop. On a radar screen, an aircraft would typically appear as a small blip or dot.
The concept behind radars is quite simple. A transmitter sends out a narrow beam pulse of electromagnetic energy. When the beam hits an object that can reflect this energy, some of the beam echoes back to the radar, where it's picked up by a receiver, and after processing, the result is displayed as a blip on the radar screen.
Whatever it is that they saw on radar, they saw the same thing that was supposedly portrayed in this video of these mysterious orbs surrounding this airplane, which a lot of people to this day believe it is fake because it was supposedly debunked because of a special effect.
Yeah, let me introduce you to Don Burgess. He's the guy that made a video showing how you can fake the same video. He didn't do the thermal apparently yet, but he's done the first one.
This is a fake UFO video. One that I made specifically for this video. Though if you happen to recognize it, that might be because I was copying this video. One of two videos that recently resurfaced and have been doing the rounds on social media. So why am I trying to make a fake version of a video that might already be fake? Well, it's because of something that this guy said. This is Ashton Forbes. He's a self-proclaimed citizen journalist who has become obsessed with investigating the disappearance of flight MH370, a Malaysian Airlines flight that went missing in 2014.
A Malaysia Airlines flight with 239 people on board, including 4 Americans, has gone missing.
But, as you may have guessed, he doesn't think that MH370 went missing under ordinary circumstances. He thinks that these videos are genuine and that they capture the moment that some kind of advanced technology abducted the plane and the 237 people on board. For Ashton, these videos are 100% real. And he's wrong. But before I tell you why I think he's wrong, I wanted to see what I would do if I was going to hoax a video like this. I wanted to make one for myself. And also because Ashton directly challenged me. Okay, he didn't, but it kind of felt like it. You see, whilst being interviewed on another YouTuber's live stream, Ashton kept saying the videos would be extremely hard or impossible to fake.
So this is extremely difficult if they had faked this.
He said that he had even consulted with lead visual effects artists that had worked on Top Gun Maverick and Marvel movies.
Marvel VFX lead, who also claimed it would take at least 6 months.
But as a motion graphics designer and someone who has dabbled a bit with VFX in his career, I was sure that I could do something that was similar or pretty good in much less time. But first, let's do a quick refresher on what this whole thing is about. On the 19th of May, 72 days after the plane went missing, this video was uploaded to YouTube. It shows an aeroplane, apparently from the view of a satellite, which is then joined by 3 spherical craft. After around 55 seconds, there's an explosion of light and the aeroplane and the spheres disappear. Only a few weeks later, on the 12th of June, another video was uploaded, seemingly of the same incident, but from a different perspective and using a thermal camera, supposedly one that was mounted on a UAV, specifically a MQ-1C Grey Eagle military drone. Like in the first video, we see an aeroplane surrounded by 3 spherical craft, which then disappear in some kind of huge explosion. Whilst these videos do look and feel authentic, we have to remind ourselves that it's possible to fake virtually anything these days. And even in 2014, we had some pretty great VFX. So, to start with, I'm going to concentrate on just the first video. This is my ingredients list. Number 1. A plane, specifically a Boeing 777, the same as MH370. Number 2, some little white spheres. Number 3, a satellite photo of some clouds. Number 4, some kind of explosion. I started off looking for a 3D model of the Boeing 777. I figured that to get the plane to turn and bank in the way that it does in the original video, a 3D model was really the only way to go. Once I had the model into my 3D program, I animated it along a simple path, turning and banking in roughly the same way as it does in the video. Next, I made some aliens. Other advanced technologies are available. I animated these flying in and then circling the plane. And I'm only about 20 minutes in and I have the basics of my video done already. Now I'm heading over into Adobe After Effects, the tool I'm going to use to composite the plane and the clouds and to add all the effects to make it look like it was filmed on a potato. So I have a plane and I have some UFOs, and now I need some clouds. I went online, but I was struggling to find a good high-res image from the right angle, so then I figured that I could get a bunch of individual clouds and put them into a particle generator and make them that way. Bingo. Next is the explosion, and I knew this one would be easy because I had a bunch of stock footage that I had already used on other projects. The last finishing touch would be to add all the nasty compression like we see in the original video. This will help it all blend together and make it harder for debunkers to find fault. Voila, instant potato. All in all, I'm not unhappy with the result. It's not perfect and it's not exactly the same as the original, but that was never really the goal. The goal was to see how much I could do with very limited amount of time to see whether a hoax would even be possible. I only spent about an hour and a half on it, and that's a fair bit quicker than the Marvel VFX artist's estimation of 6 months. About 1,460 times quicker. I guess that makes me 1,460 times better than a lead Marvel VFX artist. Joking, of course. I have huge respect for VFX artists and their skills, and I come nowhere near.
They saw on radar, they saw the same thing that was supposedly portrayed in this video of these mysterious orbs surrounding this airplane, which a lot of people to this day believe it is fake because it was supposedly debunked because of a special effect or something like that, which is possible. Of course it's possible, but there seems to be new evidence that people are pointing out that maybe this video wasn't fake after all. But we're gonna get into that and why this is possibly one of the biggest cover-ups. So this Twitter says that he solved the case of this missing airplane. But before we take a look into everything he has posted here and all the evidence we must understand.
Well, what was that? We missed it.
Take a look into everything
he scrolls so fast.
Has posted here and all the evidence we must.
Yeah, let's see here. The landing attempt is collaborated by the third source, the China Times, only reported Mayday call at 2:43 a.m. The Mayday call at 2:43, equivalent to 1843 UTC in Malaysian local time, roughly the same time Kate T saw the plane. The intercepted Mayday stated that the MH370 was disintegrating and attempting an emergency landing. The Chinese were trying to tell the world what happened. Where do you get this from, bro? Where do you get this information from? Cite your sources. You didn't cite a goddamn thing. If the China Times reported this, give us a link to this. The tiny amount of debris found is only consistent with this scenario. The plane could not have been terminated in the South Indian Ocean and had the debris wash up in Africa. Some of the debris was clear, visible scorch marks on it. What?
After more than 4 years, the search came up empty, and the plane's whereabouts was still a mystery. But in 2015, debris from the missing MH370, including a part of the wing called the flaperon, washed ashore across eastern Africa and the nearby islands of Reunion and Madagascar, thousands of miles from the search zone. This was the first definitive proof that the plane had indeed gone down in the Indian Ocean.
none of the debris had scorch marks on it. Where the does this guy get his info from? This guy talks out his ass. 1 minute he's telling us that it sucked into another universe by aliens. Now he's saying that it was blown up by lithium-ion batteries and it disintegrated in an attempted emergency landing. What?
Stand.
Oh my god, he scrolls so fast. Right here. The plane couldn't land on the ground because it had too much fuel, so the next option per the flight manual is to land in the water. The plane may have been directed to the coordinates in the MH370 video by the United States military. The crew may have attempted to turn back on the power to be able to dump the fuel prior to the water landing, which could explain the SDU login. The MH370 videos show the true fate of the plane. Really, they do? What videos? Oh, your fake ones with the UFOs in it? We can see that the plane was at low altitude attempting its emergency descent into the ocean, which is corroborated by KT, the witnesses in the location where we see the coordinates in the satellite video. Did the plane blow up because of lithium batteries being on fire, or did it get sucked into a parallel universe because of UFOs? This guy can't get his shit straight, and this is what James is telling us to believe? This guy? Holy shit balls!
Video that was posted to the internet a few days or weeks after the plane went missing. So around May 2014, a user by the name of Regicide posted this video to YouTube and Vimeo. Check this out. So there's a few curious things about this video. We can see these orbs that start surrounding the airplane. We can see a mouse cursor. We can also see what appears to be letters on the bottom left. This suggests that whatever this thing is, it's someone recording a screen. In a few seconds, the airplane is going to disappear into thin air. So yeah, that's weird, right? There's also this second video over here, which was supposedly taken by a drone.
Right, taken by a drone, which if you didn't notice, the drone just flew through the plane's contrail. The plane flies by the drone, leaves a contrail. The drone literally flies underneath that contrail moments after, which means that the drone was right behind this goddamn jet when it disappeared. But we do not see another jet or another anything other than the plane and these objects floating around it in the original video. So where's the drone in the first video? Oh wait, that's right. The guy that uploaded these videos must have forgot to put the drone in the first video when he uploaded it, because he did the thermal after he made the first one. I think Ashton Forbes is the man who made these videos.
I took a different approach, and I said, well, we can prove it if the government admits it. Never gonna happen. We can prove it if the leaker of the videos comes forward. And I was like, well, wow, I have this like psychological profile for a person who potentially would have leaked this video. I was calling them Agent 370. And I thought, I wonder if I can...
Agent 370.
Because there's somebody who leaked this stuff, right, went against the government. And I thought, I wonder if this person was charged, because they had to have been caught. Because if this is a Citrix session, there's logs for that. There was a screen recording. It wasn't somebody with a camera, like filming it like this. And so I started digging around for people that were charged with espionage or willful retention of classified data or dissemination of classified data. It took me like 2 weeks. And then one night, I still remember vividly, it was just like, wow, I found him. I started digging through these Wikipedia sites that have everybody who's ever been charged. And it's not as many people as you would think. And then I find Edward C. Lynn, Lieutenant Commander.
His innocence until now, but tonight a naval flight officer accused of spying has changed his plea. Lieutenant Commander Edward Lynn now admits he did play a role in passing classified information to foreign agents, but he denies committing espionage under military law.
He checked every box right away. I started getting chills because the first thing I started reading is that he has experience with signals intelligence, SIGINT. That's how all of these systems all connect to one another, the satellites, to the spy planes, to the ground-based systems and all this stuff. And I'm going, ooh, that's interesting. Well, let's read more about him. Turns out he gets assigned to this spy plane squadron, the VPU-2 Wizards, in February of 2014. right before the plane disappears. I find a statement by his lawyer saying that the investigation into him began April 2nd, 2014, which is a few weeks after the plane disappeared. And I'm already like, okay, well, wow, you've already checked a lot of the boxes. I'm imagining a scenario where he's literally in one of the spy planes that night, like tracking the plane or something like that. So we've got this lieutenant commander. I look him up. He had been like some kind of liaison to a congressional person as well. Like he was a naturalized Taiwanese American. He has potential connections where he might have been using him as a spy. He had some kind of pre-existing relationship with the FBI and NCIS. And the biggest things that I think were interesting to me is that we were trying to get him on espionage, which would have put him in prison for life, essentially. First time in like 50 years since the Cold War that an active duty member was being charged with this.
This is far from the first time Hampton Roads has witnessed allegations of spying by naval personnel. It's been going on for decades, dating back at least to the 1980s and the notorious Walker spy ring.
We ended up having to admit there was no evidence of him exchanging any information with anyone from China at all, which is a weird thing. Like if you're charging someone with espionage, you'd think you'd have evidence of it.
Mike Gooding has the latest.
Lieutenant Commander Edward Lin pleaded guilty to some but not all of the charges against him in day one of his court-martial on espionage charges. Under the proposed plea deal, he entered unconditional guilty pleas to lesser charges of violating orders, mishandling classified information, communication of national defense information, making false statements, and one count of violating the Federal Espionage Act. Lin pleaded not guilty to the more serious Uniform Code of Military Justice espionage charges. Dating back to 2012, Lin, who was a member of an elite and covert aerial surveillance squadron, admitted passing documents, including those having to do with mine countermeasures, to registered agents of the Taiwanese government with whom he'd become friendly.
And his lawyer also said that the classified information in question was available on the internet. I went, okay, what could we be trying to get him in life for classified information that's available on the internet? You know,
they were going to put him in prison for life.
And they also caught him with flight manifests that include search and rescue code names as well. And I'm just looking at that going, wow. So it turns out they forced him into a plea deal. And he ends up like issuing this statement about what he did was wrong. They mistreated him. They made sure they held him in prison, pre-trial detainment, and that he couldn't talk to the media or anything like that. The government was actually afraid of the case going to trial because they were afraid they would have to show what the classified information was that he leaked. And I'm just going, how can it not be these videos? Like, everything checks out. His plea deal, the espionage charges got dropped. He just had basically 2 charges of willful retention of classified information. And by the way, they stuck on a prostitution charge on this guy. They're trying to put him in life of prison. They're sticking on a prostitution charge on there because they're trying to, muddy the waters and damage his reputation.
Lin admitted his actions were reckless and not simply negligent. Under oath, he said, "I am not an innocent person." According to the government, Lin faces a maximum of up to 36 years in prison. Sentencing is set for June 1st and 2nd. At Naval Station Norfolk, Mike Gooding, 13 News Now.
And by the way, they stuck on a prostitution charge on this guy. They're trying to put him in life of prison. They're sticking on a prostitution charge on there.
Under the proposed plea deal, he entered unconditional guilty pleas to lesser charges of violating orders, mishandling classified information, communication of national defense information, making false statements, and one count of violating the Federal Espionage Act. Lin pleaded not guilty to the more serious Uniform Code of Military Justice espionage charges.
Because they're trying to, muddy the waters and damage his reputation. His family even set up a website saying like what's happening to him is not fair, blah, blah, blah. Such an interesting case, and I recommend people check it out. You can only find the articles if you change your search range from like 2014 to 2016, and then there's nothing about this guy after that.
We can see the same thing happening here. I think this is a thermal camera. It kind of suggests that it's possibly on fire, I'm not sure. Look at that. Precise moment over here where the airplane goes missing. This explosion effect, or what is believed to be a visual effect. Of course, at the time, a lot of people thought that this was fake, that this was CGI, and so did I.
Just as I was about to start recreating the second video, the thermal camera video, I saw this.
You have damning evidence as well?
I have damning testimony.
What?
I found the stock footage.
You
out.
did? You found
it? Yeah, rather, we didn't. Some people on Reddit did. This is a stock footage clip from the 90s.
Oh, hell yeah.
There's the clip from the video, and here is the stock footage.
The Corridor crew debunked the whole thing with one trip to Reddit. But I couldn't just take their word for it. I had to check it for myself. I tracked down the Reddit post, found the link to the stock footage, and hit download. My heart was pounding. It felt like I was solving some kind of huge, world-changing mystery, even though I definitely wasn't. Boom. I got it into Adobe After Effects and started scaling, rotating, repositioning, all the time hearing Ashton's words in my head.
This is like saying that my butthole is your butthole because they're similar.
And there it was. Ashton was right. The clips didn't exactly line up. The shape in purple is the original footage, and the shape in green is the overlaid stock footage. They were close, but it still wasn't right. And then it struck me. Visual effects is not a strict process. Artists are always stretching and warping images to fit their purposes. What if the hoaxer had just distorted the stock footage during the creative process? So I stretched it just a little bit, and bingo, virtually a perfect fit. And with the random nature of explosions, I find it incredibly hard to fathom the odds of these two shapes lining up so closely.
I have so much technology nowadays, and why wouldn't someone make a fake video of it just for the views, right? This is until all of these videos of these mysterious drones and orbs started popping up all over the world, and I started going into this guy's Twitter account and taking a deep...
Yeah, he takes a real deep dive in this. Let's read this. The real story of the Malaysian Airlines Flight 370. As time has gone on, I've become more convinced this video posted a year ago, Diego Garcia whistleblower, a letter to the Ashton Forbes, is legit. Someone was encouraging me to solve the case. The Diego Garcia whistleblower. Guess what that is? The Diego Garcia whistleblower says that the US military abducted this plane so they could arrest the 20 employees that work for Freescale Semiconductor. The United States military hijacked this plane so they could arrest 20 scientists. What the hell did they do with the other 219 people then? They arrested 20 scientists, but what'd they do? Assassinate the other 219? And I thought this was, it exploded by a lithium bomb on board, or it was abducted by aliens. Now you're saying you're convinced that it was abducted by the United States military? Oh wait, the United States military owned those UFOs. That's why. You know, they teleported it to a base somewhere. They have zero gravity, and they have all sorts of crazy shit and wormhole technology, and they transported this plane to a military base somewhere. If that was the case, then why don't they just transport us all wherever we want to go? Why don't we just get teleported somewhere? The letter presents a comprehensive story that explains the videos in fire event as espionage by the United States against China related to the semiconductor engineers on board. I've added graphics to the video so the viewer can understand how accurate it is. The MH370 videos are what happened to the plane. Really, the fake ones that you put on because you're lonely and trapped in mama's basement and have nothing better to do with your life? It doesn't matter if you believe it or not, this will always be the only story that fits with the facts and evidence. I hope to God they find that. I pray to God, I can't wait until they do, so they can blow you out of the water. I swear to God.
And taking a deep look into all of the things I had to say about the plane, and the deeper I went, the scarier it got.
They show
oh, it gets so scary.
The plane consistent with the fire.
So what happened to the...
Consistent with the fire, that didn't happen. Because if the lithium battery was on fire in that plane, it would have been gone in minutes.
A battery fire like this one starts in a single cell via a chemical process called thermal runaway. We actually have X-ray footage of this happening shot at thousands of frames per second. This is the top of a cell similar to this one. This is a pressure release valve, and right now it is rupturing, which should prevent an explosion by relieving the pressure, but watch this. Gas buildup pushes the internal components of the battery upward, blocking the valve until it fails and you get an explosion. You get a chain reaction that spreads to even more surrounding cells, and pretty soon you've got a massive battery fire.
Around 50 electric vehicles caught on fire in Normal, Illinois at a Rivian plant. And initial reports were stating the actual Rivian plant itself was on fire. But after further investigation, it was found that it wasn't actually the plant itself that was on fire. It was a number of vehicles in a parking area. Overall, about 50 vehicles were damaged.
They don't burn like normal fires do.
It's all science, but basically you're only actually carrying half of the energy in your car in fuel, and it takes quite a lot to ignite that. It needs a proper spark. You actually need to go in and set fire to the fuel. When it comes to electric cars, you're carrying all of the energy in the battery pack, like everything. You're not mixing anything else from the outside into it, so you're carrying this immense amount of energy around with you. And there are various things that can cause it to erupt. Obviously, if it gets punctured, if you're in an accident, there's a serious risk of it going off. But on top of that, the way that the energy gets released is really scary when you've got one of these big battery packs that catch on fire, that get punctured, etc.
Not only that, but lithium-ion batteries generate their own oxygen, causing the fire to burn a lot longer than other fires do. Not only that, but when these batteries get hot, they don't just catch on fire, they explode like a bomb.
It's a vehicle in a parking lot. At 12:10, they arrive. 12:16, they've got their hand lines stretched, they break out a window, they start spraying water inside the vehicle. But at this point in time, the vehicle's completely full of smoke. They can't see anything inside. They're not really sure what they're putting water on. At 12:19, they break out a second window. 1 minute later, it launches that removable roof up into the air.
In the video, a white color new energy vehicle that was charging suddenly exploded.
A neighbor's cell phone caught the moments a battery exploded in someone else's garage.
The Vincent Thomas Bridge could be closed for at least another 24 to 48 hours. This after a semi-truck carrying a load of lithium-ion batteries overturned and caught on fire.
Watch as the drone moves closer and then the trailer explodes. This is causing a massive traffic backup as trucks try to get out of the port. And that fire has now been burning for more than 6 hours.
I mean, you could see why they were using it to make bombs during the Cold War. But some say it's not actually the initial fiery explosion part that's the worst, but the vapor cloud explosion that happens, which is absolutely super toxic.
But believe it or not, this isn't the scariest thing that can occur when a lithium-ion battery degrades or is damaged. That would be a VCE, or vapor cloud explosion, as we shall see in this video.
Between 6 and 11%. There goes the heavy metal nanoparticles. What we realized from our experiments in the literature, if you only partially charge a lithium-ion battery and you abuse it, it need not ignite. You can either delay ignition or it doesn't occur at all. Then the hazard flips from fire to explosion. From our research, we reckon it's between 500 and 6,000 litres per kilowatt hour of vapor cloud, not including the small droplets of solvent. You always get two forms of vapor cloud, heavier than air and lighter than air, and only one dominates, and we don't know how to predict this yet. Now you can see the heavier than air vapor cloud. Imagine that in the bedroom cupboard on the 3rd floor of a terraced house with a battery energy storage system next to the hot water tank. Lithium-ion batteries going to become unstable at about 70 degrees centigrade.
A burning shipping container full of lithium-ion batteries sent a noxious cloud into the East End air on Monday afternoon. Librado Gallardo works right across the street from the Port of Montreal, where the blaze raged for hours.
We couldn't breathe, very hard time to breathe.
According to the Montreal Fire Department, the fire began at 2:45 p.m. Monday. Some said the smoke smelled like burning plastic and made it impossible to breathe.
The communications bay of the Boeing 777 is separated from the cargo bay by a thin bulwark and a door. If the lithium-ion batteries had been loaded against the bulwark, any explosion would have cut through the separating wall and the communications bay, releasing toxic gases directly into the air conditioning. This might have knocked out the crew and passengers, leaving only the pilot enough time to don his oxygen mask.
When a lithium battery burns, it produces a fireball, a real flash that releases an enormous heat, that releases mortal gases very quickly.
Flight UPS-9 from Dubai crash-landed in the desert after the pilots signaled a fire aboard provoked by lithium batteries. However, the fire was so catastrophic that the aircraft crashed.
In the case of the Middle Eastern accident, the flight lasted just a few minutes. The captain, it seems, had left his seat in the cockpit full of fumes to go and get a mask, because his wasn't functioning. But the co-pilot, on the other hand, who was equipped with a mask, said just before the aircraft crashed that he couldn't even see the instruments. Such was the smoke in the cockpit.
What are these orbs? Are they alien? Are they human?
Thing inside those orbs. I think they're autonomous balls of plasma. And if we have that technology, there's a lot of tough questions that are going to be asked, like, where did we get this technology? How long have we been hiding this technology? What does this mean about our reality?
This guy can't talk. He can't even say anything without doing his gesture smile. Did you see it?
How long have we been hiding this technology? What does this mean about our reality?
Look at that smile. See that shit-eating grin? Because he knows he's bullshitting.
Our technology, and where was the plane sent to? So I found this post on Reddit. Wing type debris found was confirmed by Malaysia to be from MH370 with the part numbers to prove it, right? But then someone left this very interesting post over here stating that you cannot identify an airplane part by the part number.
Not saying you... What? So if they just have a part number, it could be from any 770 to, and importantly, you wouldn't have to falsify any records to say that it was or wasn't. Bro, I'm pretty freaking sure that the world knows how many planes are missing, right? So someone would have to falsify legal paperwork to lie about it either way. Are you... Oh my God. Are people just like... Do you people have brains, dude? Okay? The only flight that was missing in the entire world at the time that the Malaysian airline flight MH370 went down was MH370. That was the only plane that was missing. So when plane parts come up washing up on the shores, it's probably from the plane that was missing. And considering that there was only one,
it has to be a serial number, and that was not the case. So this guy says, if they have part number and serial number, it can be traced to the exact aircraft. However, it was just the part number, so he says that it could be from any 777 and not just MH370. So it's possible that they never found any debris, which would be very strange.
Really? It's possible that they didn't find any debris. Are you? Oh my God. Oh my God. Does this guy do any of his homework at all? Did you do your homework in school, or do you know how to do any research? Or do you get all your information from Reddit and Twitter and...
These guys on Reddit and Twitter debunking the debunkers that the videos that were posted of the orbs surrounding the airplane are not fake. Not only that, they seem to have information in them to suggest that this was screen recorded from a satellite and a very sophisticated military system. This is what they found out. That in the video you can actually see that it's cropped, the information is cropped with this tag over here. And this suggests that this was the satellite that was recording this video. It was launched in 2006. This is its route, very close by to where the airplane was last seen. You also have Ashton Forbes posting the same thing. National.
I can't read the top because of titles taking up the damn thing, but Reconnaissance Office launch of the Space-Based Infrared System in 2006. The coordinates next to it are the real location of MH370 on March 7th, 2014. This is saying that the Malaysian airliner went missing on March 7th. What? It went missing on March 7th? No, it did not. News. Malaysian Airlines Flight 370 disappearance of a Malaysian Airlines passenger jet on March 8th. What time was sunrise in Malaysia? March 8th, 2014, 7:22 a.m. He's stating that this video that captured this plane from satellite, not the drone, the satellite one, the infrared satellite at that, was at 6 o'clock in the morning and 40 minutes prior to sunrise. So why was there blue oceans and white clouds when infrared, it's either grayscale or it's thermal? Infrared satellites don't capture blue ocean. Okay? Look at all these images. They're either thermal dynamic or they're grayscale. Infrared satellites, by definition. Infrared satellite imagery is a type of satellite image that uses infrared sensors to measure heat radiating from the Earth's surface in clouds. This imagery is used by meteorologists to identify and track clouds as well as estimate the intensity of thunderstorms. Right down here. Colder clouds appear brighter shades of gray or white, while warmer clouds appear darker shades of gray. Okay? They would be black and white, grayscale. Would the oceans appear blue in infrared satellite images? No, in infrared satellite images, the oceans would not appear blue. They would typically appear dark or black because water absorbs most infrared radiation, making it appear cold and dark in an infrared image, regardless of its color or visible light. So even if it was in the daytime, which I've also proven that the time that the plane went down was before 7 a.m. Sunrise that day that it went down was at 7:22 a.m. The sun wasn't even up yet, so it couldn't even have lit up the clouds, let alone the ocean. And regardless of its color or visible light, the oceans will appear cold and dark. Since water absorbs most infrared radiation, it will appear very dark. Not blue, dark. While raw infrared data is usually grayscale, processed images might use color schemes to highlight features, but even then, water would typically appear dark or black. Not blue, not that blue that we're seeing, dark or black. Ashton Forbes, you're a fraud. Around 1840 UTC, which is 6:40 a.m. Sunrise on that day, the day that it went down, because it was actually March 8th, guys, so March 7th? Where the coordinates next to it are the real location of March 7th? The plane went down on March 8th. What the? Oh my God. And at 6:40 UTC, guess what? The sunrise on that day was at 7:22 a.m. How is it that the sky is lit up? There's no sun, bro. The sun didn't come up for another hour, another 42 minutes. We got a blue ocean in the background and bright white clouds. Oh my God. It makes my brain hurt. Makes my brain hurt so bad. These facts are absolute proof that this is real.
Reconnaissance Office launch of the space-based infrared system in 2006. The mouse at 24 frames per second.
Oh my God, how do you tell that anyways? So more proof that so that there can be no denial. The mouse at 24 frames per second versus the background being at 6 frames per second. Well, if you were playing something that is slower frames per second on your computer that has a flicker rate of 30 frames per second, and you're watching a video that was recorded and reduced to the point, compacted to the point of which it is only 6 frames per second, that video is still going to be at 6 frames per second while your mouse is going to scroll over it at the 24, 30 frames per second. And I still don't know how he even got this information. Like, where do you get this from? Versus the background being at 6 frames per second is proof of a cropped screen recording using a remote terminal login. Really, proof. It's proof. By a Centrex session of the real United States Spy Satellite Database Program. The clouds are real, 3-dimension, highly detailed really. Highly detailed. They're bright fucking white because somebody turned up the brightness or the exposure on it so much that you can't tell the definition of the cloud. So tell me, how detailed is that? They're bright white, bro.
Versus the background being at 6 frames per second is proof of cropped screen recording.
Videos are aeronautically consistent with the capabilities of the 77200 while making a turning descent maneuver. Holy fuck, bro. Anybody ever play one of those flight simulator? You know how easy it is for somebody to imitate flight simulation on a 3D animator?
Recording via Citrix session.
We are looking at that satellite video. We can tell that they are doing a screen recording. It's not somebody who's got a camera who's filming the screen like a guy would be doing.
They're doing a screen recording on a military computer, really. And then they did what? So they did a screen recording on a military computer and then they did what? Uploaded it to the internet? Well, if that's the case, I'm pretty goddamn sure that the military would know about it.
Here. That's one of the earliest details that I noticed. And so when this...
And do you see the definition? Oh, those clouds are so highly defined, you know. They're so highly defined. Those look like a child painted them.
Sleuths on social media found out that this was a Citrix session logged into a database because of the mouse. The mouse is at 24 frames per second that we see in the satellite video, and it comes off the top right of the screen and goes off to the bottom left of the screen, indicating they're looking at a much larger field of view, but they're cropped it down, removing the drone so that we wouldn't see that, removing other information.
Oh, he says they removed the drone, huh?
From it. And I was going, wait a minute, I've got like a psychological profile for the person who would have leaked this.
Yeah, right from the horse's mouth itself. He said it in Candace Owens' fucking
and
interview,
I was going,
too.
wait a minute, I've got like a psychological profile for the person who would have leaked this. It would have to be a human.
What?
Professor Ulrich Ecker works at the School of Psychological Science at the University of Western Australia. He specializes in the impact of misinformation on memory, reasoning, and behavior.
Conspiracy theories are inherently very interesting because they're designed to be. They're sort of irresistibly outrageous, right? They provide people with sort of an emotional appeal. So if the government or an organization or someone who's communicating about an event is not able to provide answers, well, people are going to look elsewhere because they want answers. They want to reduce their uncertainty.
The Malaysian government was not able to provide clear, concise information and reasoning about the disappearance, and this caused many to go in search of answers themselves.
A lot of people want to see meaning and patterns, and they might struggle to, accept that there's a big event that doesn't also have a big cause. If there's a big event, they're looking for a big cause, and they might struggle to accept that maybe it's just an ordinary, arbitrary, random cause, or that the cause is even unknown. And a final factor, I think, is that for people who feel a bit disenfranchised or maybe socially isolated, linking up with other people who believe in these conspiracies can give them a sense of community as well and reduce their feelings of isolation.
I had the psychological profile. You sure do, you scumbag.
Personnel, they would be a patriot most likely that wants to tell the world. They remove the HUD data and all this other sensitive information. They leak the first video, thinking that maybe the world will pick up on that first video and they don't even need to leak the second one. And then when we ignore that, they drop the second videos in perfect synchronization. Now you've got absolute proof. We've got coordinates. We've got 2 different videos. So I started Googling, looking up people. It took me about 2 weeks because it's really hard to find some of this information that goes back, especially 7 or 8 years or more. And then I run across Lieutenant Commander Edward C. Lynn.
Oh my gosh.
999% sure this is the guy.
So apparently this guy was arrested 1 week after the video was leaked to the internet, and his lawyer stated that he did not commit any crime because the information that he supposedly was arrested for was available on the internet. In other words, the video that was leaked.
Actually, James, he was arrested for espionage, okay? Not leaking a video on YouTube that amassed a few 100,000 views, and now Ashton's out here promoting, okay? Oh my God, does anybody bother to take 5 seconds out of their day and look something up? You all have phones in your hands. If there's something that somebody is telling you is absolute truth, do not take it as truth. Take it with a grain of salt. You literally have a search bar, a Google search bar on your phone. Type in to Google what it is that you're looking for.
His lawyer is on the record saying that the investigation into him began April 2nd, 2014, the next month after the plane disappeared.
Yeah.
That's when I went, oh boy, like this is a very narrow window of time.
Oh boy, I found somebody that just could be used for my deceiving ways.
The defense lawyer argued that the classified information in question is available on the internet. Which, if it's not these videos, why were they trying to get him?
It's bizarre, isn't it? So this is, for instance, the website and the...
Not really, James. Not really bizarre at all if you do your 5 minutes of research. Airliner video artifacts explained by remote terminal access. First, I would like to express my condolences to the family of MH370. No matter what the conclusion of these videos, they all want closure, and we should be mindful that these posts and how they affect others. I have had a very hard time debunking any of this. Anytime I think I get some relief, the debunk gets debunked. Wow, who wrote this? Ashton? SAT video contention. There have been numerous discussions around the SAT video. Its stereoscopic layer, noise, artifacts, FPS, frames per second, cloud complexity, you name it. Cloud complexity. Holy shit, man. How complex were those white blotches sitting up there, bro? Since we have a lot of debunking threads on this right now, I figured I should play devil's advocate. That's what I'm doing right now. I am playing devil's advocate. I myself went ahead and converted it to a true 3D video for people to view on YouTube. Yeah, this sounds like Ashton right here. Viewing it does look like it has in-depth data, and this post here backs it up with tons of data.
Link to the website where
there does seem to be some agreement that the stereo layer has been generated through some hardware software sensor trickery instead of actually being filmed and synced with another imaging source. There, you said it yourself. I am totally open to the stereo layer being generated from additional depth data instead of a second camera. This is primarily due to the look of the UI on the stereo layer and the fact that there is a shared noise between both sides. If this stereo layer is generated, it would pull the same noise into
people
it.
Got this idea.
What noise are you talking about?
That the video was actually a screen recording of...
Also, the cursor... This is Ashton. If it's not Ashton, it's somebody reiterating his bullshit word for word. Also, the cursor is being remotely rendered, which is supported by Citrix. Lots of people apparently discussed the jittery mouse and glitches over at our Citrix. Citrix renders the mouse on the server, then sends it back to the client being the screen that is screen capped. The latency can explain the mouse movements.
Citrix session.
So in summary, if we are taking this at face value, I will steal this comment listing what may happen here. Yeah, face value. That's what all these idiots do. They take it all at face value. They don't bother to look into anything.
This guy goes deep into this. He explains.
Yeah, deep into this. To me, this is way too complex to ever been thought of by a hoaxer. I mean, good God, really? Way complex. Do you know what kind of movies in 2014 Hollywood was putting out? Do you know? So I went ahead and looked up what movies came out in 2014 containing CGI, because I wanted to know what were the capabilities of CGI in the year that these fake UFO videos that Ashton Forbes keeps saying are so real came out. And here's the movie that I was talking about with Tom Cruise. Edge of Tomorrow and Godzilla came out. Anyways, when I was looking at this stuff, I wanted to see what the CGI looked like in Edge of Tomorrow again, because it's been a while since I watched that movie, but I remember it looked really realistic. Even Godzilla was impressive. So here's this clip right here. Edge of Tomorrow, creating the Mimic's shot build. Let's see what this has to say.
At Sony Pictures Imageworks, the Mimic character went through a lengthy design phase which extended into shot production. It was important to the director that this creature looked truly alien in our world, both in form and motion. Early designs comprised of solid structures of anatomy wrapped in tentacles and later refined and stripped down to tentacle bundles only, leaving the head as the only solid form. As for the head, numerous iterations were designed and rendered before arriving at our final look. The Mimic creature can move in unpredictable ways, sometimes with explosive power and speed. The freeform tentacle body allows a creature to reconfigure itself, spawning new tentacles, retracting others, shapeshifting by sliding and wrapping tentacles in new configurations. Animation's challenge was to both control this unique shapeshifting character as well as ground its...
I'm going to pause right there. this is just the basic CGI for this film. Look at that. Look how awesome that looks. And you mean to tell me that they can't fake a 6 frame per second screenshot of a plane flying through some clouds?
Frenetic speed and power in reality. We found that animation alone at this speed did tend to lack weight at times. But when paired with extensive effects animation, the motions became grounded, believable, and terrifying. The animation requirements of this creature created a very non-standard character, and traditional rig approaches simply didn't apply.
Ashton Forbes is saying that they couldn't recreate how a plane would look when it's turning. But look at this. They recreated a helicopter being slammed into a building.
Requirements of this creature created a very non-standard character, and traditional rig approaches simply didn't apply. We didn't have a fixed model, character volume, or number of tentacles to work with. Hand animating.
Or does Ashton Forbes want to believe that they used a real helicopter in that part of the movie? Did they use a real helicopter in that part of the movie? Because it looked real. It looks real. I bet they used a real helicopter.
Hundreds of tentacles would be too unwieldy and slow for shot production. Instead, we developed a procedural tentacle system to generate bundles of tentacles on the fly. Here we see a cross-section of a bundle. Each bundle is controlled by custom software to handle tentacle-to-tentacle collisions, and high-level controls to add or remove tentacles, handle tentacle spacing, drape and contraction, as well as the ability to introduce animated noise. There are even controls to grow into a foot or hand position for more articulate posing. The animators were free to add or remove tentacles per limb or even add additional limbs if necessary, making each shot of the character truly unique.
Look how fluid that movement was. Was that not
Remove
awesome?
Tentacles per limb or even add additional limbs if necessary.
Boy, oh boy, I mean, that must be real. That must be a real monster there. I bet that's a real monster because you couldn't fake that movement. Look at that. You know, that has gotta be real.
Making each shot of the character truly unique and customizable. The tentacles were designed to be less organic than a traditional creature. We wanted to stay away from soft tissue. Instead, the creature is made up of chains of sharp crystal and glass-like structures, which would also be used as slashing and stabbing, and we eventually settled on the properties of obsidian for the sharp tentacle ends and transitioned to amber for the softer parts at the creature's center. Finally, an internal energy was added to the creature within its core. This energy spread from its center.
Oh my, you know, and all the clouds lit up when it exploded. You know, you can't add lighting effects to anything these days. This is 2014, the same year that the plane went down, the same year that these videos were being released of the plane being sucked into a parallel universe or disintegrating in midair, according to, oh my god, dude. Wow.
Through its limbs just prior to a javelin volley, or simply to add aggression and emotion during a mimic attack.
Epic movie. Epic movie. That movie was awesome. I love that movie. That movie was so good. But either way, I mean, if we're gonna think the way that Ashton Forbes thinks and believes everything and tries to sell you all this shit, well then any CGI movie that's came out since 2014, if not a few years before it, it's all real. It's all real, man. There's no way they could fake all that. There's no way. Godzilla's real. King Kong is real. These aliens in this movie are real. You know, they're lying to us. They're just lying. They're lying. They're hiding all this shit from us, and we need to burn down the establishment and find out the truth. That was an amazing film. And guess what? That came out 2014. Yeah. So, I mean, CGI was pretty crazy in 2014. It's even crazier now. It's had 10 years to evolve. But CGI was crazy in 2014 for Hollywood. So, yeah. Do I think that some loser that got fired from their graphics design job was sitting in his mom's basement and had nothing better to do with his day other than beat off? Yeah, I think so. How did they get this data out of the SCIF is a great question. Yeah, exactly. How would they have gotten the data out? How would they have gotten a screen capture on a military computer and then uploaded it to something without the military knowing? Riddle me this, Batman. That was a great question, but the scenario is getting more and more plausible and honestly very humbling. Oh yes, it's so humbling to think that you guys are going on and on and on about a tragedy. You guys are making shit up acting like you are on to something. You're gonna blow the lid on this. You're gonna blow the lid and expose the whole thing. You're gonna bring the whole house down. Meanwhile, 239 people lost their lives, and that is over 100 families suffering from a tragedy that you guys are now trying to, I don't know, get your 5 minutes of fame. Well, guess what? It's gonna end up being your 5 minutes of shame when they find the plane. Love you all. Amazing research. My heart goes out to the families.
Detail by detail into why this is with links and all that, into why this is a Citrix session recording. But there are some questions here. Why did the plane divert from its path before these orbs showed up?
Well, James, it actually diverted from its path like 6 or 7 hours before the orbs showed up, because the plane diverted from its path, flew for another 6 to 7 hours, and then ran out of fuel and landed in the ocean. So if it was on fire, I highly doubt that there was enough oxygen on board for even one pilot to have lasted 6 or 7 hours, let alone been able to see his controls or any of the instruments. Like, oh my god.
So apparently there were lithium-ion batteries.
Malaysia Airlines flight MH370 was carrying lithium-ion batteries, which can be highly flammable, as reported by numerous sources, to confirmation by MAS Chief Executive Officer Ahmad during one of the daily briefings that the status for the search of the missing aircraft came 4 days after he denied the aircraft was carrying any hazardous goods. We carried some lithium-ion small batteries. They are not big batteries. They are basically approved on... Yeah, so small batteries. So even if they did have any, they were probably the size that go in your cell phones. Lithium-ion battery, is not dangerous goods per se, but in terms of they are being declared as dangerous goods under ICAO. According to a report published by MalaysiaNinski.com, jury insisted the lithium-ion battery cargo was checked several times to ensure it was packed in accordance with ICAO
batteries inside the MH370, and this is completely prohibited because if they catch on fire, it's impossible to put it out. So
actually, it's not prohibited, guy, because there's been 2 airliners that have crashed and blown up because of having lithium battery on them, and just recently too.
Batteries inside that airplane. That's really odd, isn't it? And here you have Ashton kind of explaining what happened.
At 17:19 UTC, the pilot says, "Good night, Malaysian Airlines flight."
This is coming from Ashton Forbes. Oh my god. He must not know that they have satellite, the satellite comms on the airplane, on the airliner, started pinging again when it hit this point. So this was the last known location that they got from radar right here. And then the SATCOMs came back online and tracked the plane all the way back down here. He's saying that it was here, and then it went here, and this is the last known location that they searched. Well, they searched down here too. This was the first search, the second search, the third search. They're going to be doing a 4th search pretty damn soon. Kate T's boat video. Boat video location? She has a video, bro? Then why aren't you showing us the video of Kate T's video? Do you see it right there? You don't see the VI, but I see video location. Where's that video? Co-pilot phone pings local cell tower close to pinning. Yeah, because it was the last time that they flew over and were low enough to hit a radio tower. You know why planes fly low? To avoid radar detection. MH370 takes off from the Kuala Lumpur Airport 1642. What the dude?
370. Around 1721 UTC, a lithium-ion battery fire explosion occurs and is seen by Mike McKay on an oil rig 300 miles away. He sees fire for 5 to 10 seconds.
Oh my Lanta, really? Somebody printed off a letter, and it's an email, and somebody just prints off this, and you know, it's as good as gold. I believe I saw the Malaysia Airlines plane come down. The timing is right. I tried to contact the Malaysian and Vietnam officials several days ago, but I do not know if the message has been received. I am on oil rig Soga Merker off of Ting Vang Gia. The surface location of the observation is this. I observed the plane burning at high altitude and on a compass bearing of 265 degrees at 275 degrees from our surface location It is very difficult to judge distance, but I'd say 50 to 70 kilometers along the compass bearing. Oh, let me guess. So this guy was on an oil rig and just so happened to have a compass in his back pocket. Oh my god.
9 witnesses along the coast hear loud noises at the same time. The plane goes dark. At 17:30 UTC, there's a communication with another pilot who hears the voice of one of the pilots of MH370. At the same time, 8 fishermen on a boat 10 miles off the coast see the plane.
4 fishermen from Indonesia claim to have witnessed Malaysia Airliner's flight MH370 going down in the Straits of Macau.
Plane flying unusually low, consistent with a depressurization emergency event attempting to provide oxygen for the passengers.
Jean-Luc Marchand teamed up with ex-pilot Patrick Blely to try and make sense of the disappearance from the limited facts available. They've combined their technical and operational backgrounds to try and more accurately depict the events which led to the disappearance of the plane.
If the aircraft had crashed at about, let's say, 200 knots, it's like hurting a concrete wall, and thousands, at least hundreds of thousands of pieces of debris would have been created and seen. They were not, and so few debris were recovered that actually this leads to believe that the aircraft broke in large pieces. And so, based on that, only a controlled ditching would provoke this small number of debris.
The lack of debris led them to believe that the plane went down in a controlled manner, and so they concluded that a capable pilot was in full control until the end.
Considering who could be on board, without formally accusing the pilot, we cannot exclude, because he has the experience and is an instructor. It's something that is very important to note and to say. It's until we found the wreckage, we don't know.
They believe that an experienced pilot navigated the aircraft outside of Malaysian radar coverage and along the borders of various other countries' airspace, avoiding detection before being ditched into the Indian Ocean.
It's an area where there is no coverage, no surveillance, so the aircraft can do whatever he wants. The controller don't see it.
Based on these assumptions, they believe that the plane could be in a strip of ocean which is yet to be searched. But even with a narrower search area, finding the wreckage at such depths with challenging underwater terrain might just be too difficult.
Trying to locate anything 4.5 kilometers beneath the surface of the ocean, about 1,000 kilometers from land, is a massive task, and it is likely to continue for a long time to come.
The Malaysian Minister of Defense claims the plane was not identified, but admits they knew it was a non-hostile civilian airliner. The plane flies over Langkawi at 17:52 UTC when the co-pilot's cell phone pings a cell tower. The plane doesn't land either due to the fire or because they have communicated a rendezvous point. The plane continues to the Nicobar Islands until around 1840 UTC when a witness, KT, sees a glowing orange plane with dark smoke coming out of it. This is consistent with the crew battling a lithium battery fire with halon fire suppression, releasing bromine, a halogen gas. Soon after, the videos begin. They show smoke coming out of the back of the plane consistent with the fire. The plane is descending in the videos consistent with an intercepted, Chinese-only reported communication that claims the plane was attempting an emergency landing and disintegrating. The plane's altitude is low in the videos, as proven by the cumulus clouds that only form between 1,000 and 5,000 feet, also consistent with the witness's sighting.
So one may ask the question, where was the plane taken to? And, well, apparently there was a lot of people talking about the possibility of the plane being taken to Diego Garcia Island.
Line's MH370 end up on this mysterious island. If you comb the Indian Ocean, you might come across a mysterious 14-kilometer military island called Diego Garcia. What is interesting is that on March 18th, a photograph surfaced on the internet, supposedly originating from an IBM employee named Philip Wood, and that took the internet by storm. Because just 10 days ago, Philip Wood supposedly disappeared, along with Malaysia Airlines MH370. Wood supposedly disappeared.
I have been held hostage by unknown personnel after my flight managed to hide my cell phone in my ass during the hijack. What? You hid your cell phone in your ass, did ya? My name is Philip Wood. Oh my God. Phil Wood. Yep. And you hid a phone up your ass, huh?
Appeared, along with Malaysia Airlines MH370. Now you might be thinking, what does a photo have to do with Diego Garcia? But, you see, internet sleuths started to pull apart the data from the photo. The exchangeable image file format of the
What photo?
Image revealed that the photo was taken on March 18th on the island of Diego Garcia, leading many to think that there's more to the MH370 story.
So this is weird, but wait. If people were calling their relatives...
What photo were they talking about? Did you see a photo? That photo? You talking about that one? The fuck is that? Oh my God.
Now you might be thinking, what does a photo have to do with Diego Garcia? But...
Or did I miss it? Did I miss it? Did I miss something?
Because just 10 days ago, Philip Wood supposedly...
Oh wow, a black screen. Woo! Oh my God!
disappeared, along with Malaysia Airlines MH370. Now you might be thinking, what does a photo have to do with Diego Garcia?
So this is weird, but wait. If people were calling their relatives days, weeks after, months after the plane went missing, this would mean that there was a phone signal, and Ashton and other internet users started tracking this, and this is what they found. So this guy says, it's nice to see other researchers thinking outside the box and looking towards the Maldives and Diego Garcia, the only two places you can make a phone call out there. And this is wild. Look at that.
Who said that they made any phone calls? They made phone calls? If they made phone calls, then why don't we know about the phone calls? And that's where this base is? Way over here? Where are they talking about this base? My God. Okay, so now this is new trajectory of this plane. They think that it just went straight this way? Okay, so I guess that the satellite image from the SATCOMs when the plane's satellite communications came back online, I guess that's bullshit then when it tracks that the airline went all the way down here and crashed somewhere down here.
This is impressive. So this is also something that was pointed out by Ashton. In this video, you can see that the flash that occurs when the plane goes missing can be seen being reflected on the clouds.
I mean, that wouldn't be because somebody was toying around with the exposure on the video. I make videos and I do photography. It's really easy to just adjust the exposure or the flash or the lighting at a specific moment in any video or photo. It's really easy. Really easy. It's like the first thing you learn when you're doing any editing is how to edit exposure. And I'm sorry, but for being that this plane went down, they know that the last ping that they had from satellite, it went down before 7 a.m. The sun rose at 7:22 a.m. that day. Okay? So how are these clouds so bright as if the sun was right on top of them?
In this precise moment, here, take a look at that. Because a lot of people thought that the clouds were fake, that the video was fake. But if it is, it was really, really well done. There's also the deleted Reddit account that explains who were the people, the scientists inside the airplane, and this is...
To be clear here, I am not saying that the referenced author has anything to do with MH370's disappearance. It does seem that coincidental, though, that a company loses 12 of its nanoscale microcontroller engineers from its Malaysian manufacturing center. the nanoscale microcontroller. Okay, so these engineers deal with the machines that make the semiconductors, and they're trying to make them smaller, thus reducing the amount of material needed to make them. Plus, since now that they're trying to make blood cell size semiconductors, now these engineers have to figure out how to make machines to make them, right? So they have to scale everything down. That's what that means, guys. Nanoscale, yes, because they're trying to make everything so small that it's not even visible to the human eye.
Quite important.
It's a sheer coincidence. Department of Physics and Center for Nano and Molecular Science and Technology, the Department of Mechanical Engineering and Material Space Program, the University of Texas at Austin, Texas.
So Ashton, like many others, believe that the plane was possibly warped to somewhere else using...
Yep, he believes that it was blown up by lithium batteries. It teleported somewhere. What else does he believe? It was either blown up or aliens abducted it, or, you know, the military abducted it, all for the 20 scientists on board, and screw the other 219 people. You know, they must have just killed them on sight. They must have shot them all dead as soon as they warp drive to a safer location, so the world couldn't tell that they assassinated 239 people.
Using advanced alien technology, because the 20 scientists that were inside were on the verge of a breakthrough.
Oh my god. This guy doesn't bother to look up anything. He reads everything off of Reddit and believes every Twitter post that somebody puts out there.
A breakthrough when it comes to zero-point energy.
Further evidence includes minimum debris consistent with the water landing rather than... Further evidence includes minimal debris consistent with a water landing. Okay? So according to Ashton Forbes, it either blew up or it got warp drive. The videos show that it got warp drive, and that's what he's all about now, is that it was warp drive. But yet we have debris, which James just said there was no debris. Ashton Forbes says that there's no debris, but then he says that debris has scorch marks on it, which there's been no scorch marks on any of the debris that has been found, consistent with a water landing rather than a crash. Yep. As some pieces showed scorch marks in an empty fire suppression bottle washed ashore. I'd like to know where they got that from. It was alleged that classified U.S. technology on board led to an cover-up with advanced technology, including warp drive capabilities. Really, on a commercial airliner, huh? A commercial airliner, they had classified U.S. technology. Yeah. Oh my god. Led to a cover-up with advanced technology, including warp drive capabilities, being withheld from public disclosure. Yep. So, you know, they must have blew it up or stole all this commercial airliner. Videos and collaborating witnesses point to a controlled descent and emergency response efforts before the aircraft's disintegration. So it disintegrated. Well, what about these orbs that transported this plane to a magical far-off land? What is it, guys? You got to stick with one story here. Did it disintegrate or did it get warp drived? I don't know what one you want me to believe. All I do know is that it went in the ocean because we found the parts to it.
And this makes me wonder, all of this drone and alien orbs thing, it all started with a bunch of UFOs hovering very close by to nuclear reactors all over the world.
What the all I see is black and then a red, yellow, green. Christmas lights, man. Anybody could have wrapped the drone up in Christmas lights and somebody took a picture with a really shitty phone. And they're like, see? Mystery drone emerges out of the ocean and heads towards Oyster Creek nuclear plant on December 11th, 2024. A total black background with 3 lights and a backwards J and J. Are you for real right now? Another Reddit post at that.
I've been mapping these, and if you've
you've been mapping something. Oh my god.
Been following my channel, you know what I'm talking about. There's also reports.
Nuclear power plants report massive uptick in drone sightings. Yeah, drones, not UFOs, drones, and yeah, that could easily be somebody that's trying to get video of a nuclear plant.
Reports of people working these nuclear reactors stating the same thing. So it seems that there's an eerie connection between these alien orbs and this new technology that we're on the verge of discovering. Maybe AI, maybe quantum computing, or zero-point energy.
You have to ask yourself, What Pandora's box would a new physical insight potentially open? But fundamental physics as opposed to, condensed matter or...
Right. Certainly aerospace corporations have knowledge in the UAP area that specifically are sequestered against FOIA.
There are people who have been experimenting with zero-point energy or try to tap zero-point energy for years. Every once in a while, someone will do it accidentally. They'll call it cold fusion, but I don't think it's cold fusion. I just think it's a zero-point energy tap. Except for 3 people that I know, no one has been able to control it. When it happens for a short period of time, and it's almost always destructive. It's a coupling of the device with the energy that permeates space.
And what's interesting is that Ashton Forbes believes that these drones, these orbs that were surrounding the Malaysian airplane were plasmoids or something like that.
Inside those orbs, I think they're autonomous balls of plasma. And if we have that technology, there's a lot of tough questions that are going to be asked, like, where did we get this technology?
So we got this video coming from Alex Collier, a pilot, and he talks about the Diego Garcia airport and how they have been testing alien technology for some time. It was posted way before all of this happened to the Malaysian airplane.
Diego Garcia Island. Diego Garcia Island, there's a base there, Pine Gap. Diego Garcia Island, there's anti-gravity anomalies there, and this is how they were able to blow a lot of equipment into space without using rockets.
Really? So that's why they have Elon Musk making rockets that can enter the stratosphere and then come back down safely. That's why they have Elon Musk spending trillions of dollars. If they had this technology, why wouldn't Elon Musk just be putting all his billions of dollars into that then?
And then they would have the UFO type craft, which we built from technology we were given.
Interesting how the Diego Garcia Island is mentioned as if it's some sort of island from the Lost TV series, full of magnetic anomalies. It would make sense if there were 20-something scientists inside the Malaysian airplane and they had knowledge of these alien technologies. It's kind of weird, possibly far-fetched, but quite a coincidence. So here's what we know for now. The orbs and drones are showing up all over the world. It started a couple of months ago, and it first started happening above nuclear reactors. Now this could be because we're on the verge of developing new technologies such as AI, quantum computing, and maybe these drones or orbs are showing up because it could be used for nefarious reasons. And maybe these orbs showed up and teleported the MH370 to somewhere else, possibly because the scientists that were inside that airplane were also on the verge of discovering this new technology. And again, if this technology is used for nefarious reasons or falls into the wrong hands, it's not a good thing. And this is what I understand that the whistleblower that contacted Ashton also is stating.
We have had the
AI-generated image with an AI-generated text message.
We've had this since the 1960s, and from that first day, we have used it to make sure that no one else can have it. The big breakthrough to apply the tech as we do today came in the beginning of the 2000s with quantum computer.
Quantum computing is something that we should be afraid of. I like AI in the sense that it helps us, but it's what they're trying to do with AI that we need to be concerned about. Not aliens, we need to be concerned about AI and what they're doing with it.
And by this, the paradigm for AI technology.
See, there's a crystalline organic material right there, example of the brain. If they can get crystalline organic material small enough to be the size of a blood cell, they can make a brain for a computer. I mean, the computer already has a brain, but they can make it out of organic material, making it more human-like.
There are endless
So pretty soon you won't be able to tell the difference between human and AI.
Applications, and the truth is that it would change the world in an instant. But that won't happen. I bet yourself, or at least most of your audience, have heard a version of the story that the aliens are here and they want to bless us with new, clean, and revolutionary technology, but we are a too young and rowdy civilization and would not be able to be responsible enough with the gifts from them. That's probably made up, but that is at the same time completely true. It's just not aliens saying this. It's us again.
It's not aliens either, it's demons, because that's what has always been plaguing mankind. Demons. Not aliens, demons. The fallen angels were stripped of their figures because they sinned against God. They taught us things just like they're doing now. They're doing the same thing that they did back in the Old Testament. Read the book of Enoch. The book of Enoch was taken out of the Bible because it was too much truth in it.
The technology is infinite in its power, and if two rivaling parties had access to it, this world wouldn't last a day.
So there's still a couple of questions here. Where are the orbs coming from? Are they alien? Are they human technology? And will humans actually be able to achieve this zero-point energy or this advanced technology without using it for nefarious reasons?
AI will help us get there, and then AI will use it for nefarious reasons. That's a guarantee.
We're apparently at this point in time right now which we have to make a choice as a society. Do we evolve and achieve this amazing technology able to revolutionize the world for the better or not? What do you think about all of this? Is it too far-fetched? Did the MH370 just dip into the ocean and disappear forever and this is all just sci-fi? Leave a comment, don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel with notifications on, smash that notification button, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.